privileged to be among you today because it's like a good chance for me to talk about a safety issue. Language is a safety issue. And both of you, like the two parties for pilots and for air traffic controllers, are concerned with this issue, which is language. So I would like to ask you some questions just for brainstorming. How far is language a safety issue? Like sometimes people say that people at language proficiency level 4 and they are okay and they can deal and there is no problem. But do you think all that physiology is enough? Like how many persons here believe that physiology is enough? And that's a good thing to communicate. Who has come through many situations that are affecting safety, and especially for emergency procedures, especially if you are in the skies and you're dealing as an air traffic controller, you're saving the life of the pilot. Sometimes among other situations that people are from working internationally and from other backgrounds, miscommunication might get to be resulted from the background that people are not in the habit of understanding that language might affect safety in a way or another in other aspects other than using physiology. So plain English counts. I'll give you some examples, like for example, using intonation. You all know that we are using for the questions, for asking for clarification. So as a controller, if you're asking a pilot, and this pilot has an emergency and is talking about ditching, for your knowledge, you understand that the Korean people, they have a problem with the utterance of CH, which is ch, and it might not be so clear through radio telephony communication, and transmission is not so clear. So how far would you make sure that he's safe and you won't understand what does he mean? So asking for clarification, this is your part as a controller. Also saying back, like there was an aircraft and there was a pilot who was asking for ditching, but he was in an emergency and he was asking for the vectors for ditching near the ocean. The controller misunderstood him and he couldn't get the meaning of ditching. So he repeated the word, the sea, the ocean, ditching. Mayday, mayday, he used the correct physiology, but still he was not able to clarify to the pilot, to the air traffic controller, what does he mean. The problem is that the air traffic controller kept talking to him and he didn't give himself some time to, like, there are priorities. For the pilot, for example, his priority, top priority is to aviate. But for the controller, he needs to communicate, to navigate, to solve the problems, to think critically. So these few minutes might lead to an accident and it will affect safety directly. As an investigator, I have seen many cases, especially in US, where you have like heavy traffic, especially in Atlanta, and people there, they give a top priority to communication, especially when teaching pilots and air traffic controllers the importance of radio telephony communication and transmissions. So I'm here for raising your awareness for both pilots and air traffic controllers that you need to repeat, you need to ask for clarification more than one time. Another example, like when one of the pilots, it was Avianca accident, and the pilot was unable to use the correct tense of just. He was a Dutch person, and for people from Germany, they don't have this tense of just. So he used the correct physiology, mayday, 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 I have an emergency, but he was unable to use just correctly. He said, I just ran out of fuel. For someone like me as a linguist, when I make the transcript for the downloading, the CVR, for me, when he said, like, I just ran out of fuel, does it mean that he was really in an emergency situation? When I say I just, like, when you are asking me, are you okay? I say, just some pressure. So when he said, I just ran out of fuel, it doesn't make sense for the controller. He wouldn't understand. He wouldn't get the message that he was really in an emergency. And he would need help instantly on the spot. And it makes like life here, it equals life. 1 minute equals life. And first mistake is last mistake, as you all know. So as a linguist, when I hear I just ran out of fuel, as a controller, it was your job to ask the pilot again, say again, what's your problem? So you can identify and justify the reason why he is talking in this way. Like, he was not sticking to the phraseology only. He was trying to tell the air traffic controller that I have an emergency. So the intonation counts. Even the usage of like some intonations for asking a question, like when I say, you're a pilot, aren't you? So, aren't you here, I'm asking. I need clarification. But when I say, I know, you're a pilot, aren't you? So, like exclamation, or I'm ensuring. So there is a great difference between clarification, asking for information, or just making sure, assuring about something. Another example that I would like to share with you, when one of the pilots was approaching Sydney, and the air traffic controller was talking to him, and you all know that the hardest part through the flight is through departure, takeoff, and landing. So most of the accidents happen during these two times when you are under stress. The human factor plays a role. And he was telling him, welcome to the grey. As somebody who is an Australian, you know, welcome to the grey means welcome to Sydney. But for somebody who is a non-native speaker, who is an international person, international pilot, it doesn't make any sense. So you might lose concentration. As a pilot, it will take you few minutes. I know that some of you might tell me, hey, most of us are experienced and we have been through many, many situations like this, so language wouldn't be the main thing which will lead to an accident. But yes, it's an embedded factor, but it is accumulative. So step by step, you will come through miscommunication. Another example is, I heard it in Atlanta, and it was join the Congo line. Join the Congo line, does it make any sense for you? Does it make sense for you? Even for me as a linguist, I know that Congo line is a traditional dance. It's traditional dance in Latin America. The controller meant to say line up, and he had the busy traffic that he wanted to tell the pilot that he can wait. Like when you tell somebody, I'm totally tired, I'm exhausted. So he would answer you, join the club. We are all tired. So miscommunication doesn't occur just because somebody doesn't understand the other. You know that a message it has two channels, like it's double channel word, like from the receiver and from the sender. So whose responsibility is it? Pilot or air traffic controller? Is it for only one party? Of course not. Both are responsible. Safety is the responsibility of everyone. So what I'm here for is just to tell you that what makes a great difference is that you put into consideration also cultural differences, and that people do not have the same kind of understanding. So your job or your main role or your main responsibility is to put into consideration individual references. Try to analyze the situation, the context, the discourse, which is happening through. Try to assure, using everything that you can use to make sure that the verbal message had reached in a successful way. You understand. So you can say again, you can say, let me explain this to you, or you can assure what does he mean using questions, asking him to clarify, affirm. So whether this is an affirmative sentence or it's a question, so you need to make sure. Also, the discourse analysis. Discourse analysis here, the situation or the context that the pilot is asking you for a service, you need to understand everything else happening along with this question or this demand or the kind of help that he needs. So also putting into consideration some of these factors while getting to be trained. I know that most of you are getting to the simulation and training courses. And I'm quite sure that you have been covering all of these topics and issues while flying and while operating the sky for air traffic controllers. But sometimes people are, they need somebody to spot the light and to tell you that, hey, it might lead to something dangerous. And that's my pleasure here to be among you and to tell you about these things. Also, I'm here for you if you need any kind of assistance with the training, or you might need to clarify or just need any kind of workshops in this issue for both pilots and air traffic controllers. I'm really concerned with designing programs, and I have already designed a program and applied it at Embry-Riddle for both air traffic controllers and pilots. It works for both novice pilots and air traffic controllers and those experienced ones. So it's OJT and also for training them from the very, very beginning as novice or student pilots or air traffic controllers. Thank you very much for your attentive listening. And it was my pleasure to be among you today. Thank you.